Call the meeting to order for San Luis Report Waterway and Beach District. Today is December 17th, 2019. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Commissioner Benjamin.
Here.
Commissioner Rivers.
Here.
Commissioner Way.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Flowers. Absent. Okay.
Adoption and approval of the agenda.
Where is it?
I move we approve, adopt and approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public comment. Anybody from the public?
Good afternoon. Ed Slavin, St. Augustine, Box 3084. You want to do the honor?
Yeah, 1 second.
What's that?
Twist that around to turn that way.
Oh my God.
Oh, do it the other way.
Maybe somebody shut
Good
it
afternoon.
off.
Ed Slavin, Box 3084, St. Augustine. I want to thank you for doing the engineering request for proposals. And I wasn't able to find the actual proposals on your all's website, so I was hoping that maybe you would have them come and make presentations next month to where people could see them and learn what they're proposing and ask questions. I want to encourage you to follow the 7-generation test as I discussed in the St. Augustine record column on September the 8th earlier this year. Every decision that the Port Waterway and Beach District makes, you need to consider the effect it's going to have on folks here. 7 generations from now. We only have 22 generations of Europeans and African Americans and European Americans here in this area. So it's a heavy burden to do what we do, and I appreciate what you do. I'd also like to suggest that you have Dr. Michael Shirley from the Juan Tolomado Kansas National Estuarine Research Reserve, PTO NERV, and also Professor Maytene Olivarietta, have her and him come and speak and make a presentation at a future meeting about the characteristics of the Summer Haven project in the Summer Haven River. They're both very familiar with it, and I sent you the materials on that earlier this year. And also ask if you would please schedule future meetings so that they don't conflict with the St. Johns County Board of County Commissioners. I just came from there today. Unfortunately, their agenda ran short, so I'm able to be in both places. And I reserve the balance of my time, and thank you for all you do.
Robert Reynolds, 50 Brigantine Court, 32080. Number one, I'm glad that the board found out the proper way for public comment on a voting item. As you know, what was done improperly. I got a call from one of Larissa's folks and told me to go look into it. I figured it was corrected. I found out at the last meeting. And just to show you that I have no hard feelings, my next brand new Ford, I'm going to buy up area at Ozark Ford. I mean that. I bought 2 last year, next one I'm going to buy up area. But today, I wasn't going to combine, but that last meeting, you know, I was told this. I didn't read it or look it up. I can only go by what I was told. That a safety issue came up with hiring police at the meeting. Well, you know, the money you're in charge of is taxpayers' money. And to the best of my knowledge, you're doing a fine job. I know of anybody doing anything wrong with that money. But safety is something we've come to learn we always need it. And you know, at these public meetings, I know sometimes you have the deputies sitting here, but they're conducting conducting business. When you have a hired officer at a meeting, it's to everybody's benefit. Your benefit, our benefit, because, another thing, we are on a main corridor. We know there's a lot of mental instability, no matter where you live today. There's people crack up, and, now here in Florida, we have over 2 million concealed weapons permits. Now, I always say this publicly. I'm not a gun person. I don't own any. I don't hunt. I don't have anything against hunters or people that own them. In fact, my neighbors, I wouldn't need a gun. They own like 50 each. So, but safety, because we just never know. And for that small amount of money, maybe you could reconsider it, going into 2020, hiring an officer that really is basically, watching our backs, watching for you, watching for everybody. And other than that, today, I wish everybody, a happy holiday. Thank you very much for all you do. And I know you don't get paid, and you have to study all these issues, and they're complicated. And I appreciate that because, I'll be honest, sometimes I'm listening and I'm really lost. So appreciate everything you do. Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else in the public? Government representatives.
Jim Peters, St. Augustine. Just a reminder, our judging and salt one's going to start early January. We're looking at the 7th of January. Should last about 8 to 10 weeks. So if everything goes as planned, and turned in the interlocal agreement for our next fine grant application, which you approved from the last meeting. So attorneys looked at it, it's the same exact one as the last 10 grants that we applied for. So that's all I have, unless you're going to come in. Thank you.
Secretary Treasurer's report.
Appreciate you guys. Tell you my heart's and right. So I mean, with the city last week, looked over the fine grants we're going to be going for next this fiscal year. So I'll kind of have that list a little bit more concrete next month for you, as we kind of let the commissioners get more information and narrow down strategy. The only other thing I had was that I know City made a request of the lease. So we're working on, our finance division has requested an MOU agreement similar to the city. So our legal department's working on that for the Doug Crane. So it's still permitting, it's about 45 days or so. But in the meantime, we kind of took their agreement, we modified it, our legal's looking at it, and so hopefully next month, I'll bring it to you guys, all kind of signed, sealed, and delivered. So, that was it.
Government representatives.
Oh.
Tool. Steve Zukowski, Official Wildlife Commission Patrol Supervisor for Coastal Flagler and St. Johns counties. The meeting last month, was that on the 15th? Or does anyone remember the date?
Yeah.
I was here. Okay. Yeah,
The third.
I didn't remember if I was here last month or not, because right after that, I finally had my surgery after waiting for 10.5 months. So I'm recovering finally. That's why.
It's the 19th.
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 19th. Okay, so I was here then. I'm sort of representing all law enforcement here today because Sergeant Underwood, and I don't know about Sergeant Whitehead from the PD, but there's a tabletop exercise going on at the EOC, County EOC, reference some sort of combined training that local law enforcement is going to have with the Coast Guard coming up in the future. So you get me today for everything. Hopefully I can answer a lot, although I've been out of the loop because I've been on some good medication for the last few months, weeks. Voting in waterways. I'll start with what happened last night. Last night we had a a grounding on the North Shoal. I think it was a 29-foot sailboat. And it was 2 sailboats in tandem coming down from up north, and we're coming in, I think it was around 7 o'clock last night. And as typically happens, people don't know the inlet. You're trying to get it in here right after dark or right at dusk, and you ran aground on the shoals. I think there was a husband and wife and 2 young children on board, if I remember. So a combination of all public safety vessels, the sheriff's helicopter, fire rescues. I don't know, was the county out there just to see? Yeah, so we had county, city fire rescue, we had sheriff's office, FWC out there, and the people were removed via, I think, the PWC's personal watercraft that fire rescue personnel use, which is what you need in the shoals. And then also, I believe so the one sailboat ran aground was listing last night, and the other one, people were taking off, and that thing was anchored out there. I don't have an update today, what's going on. I can't get a hold of one of my officers, tried, but I don't have an update. So people were removed. We are conducting, we meaning FWC is the lead agency for the, as far as I know, there were no injuries. Everybody was fine. I'll mention that also. And Officer Bill Miller from my squad is conducting the boating acts investigation on that. And hopefully we'll get those vessels out of there. I know, speaking to him late last night, that they were members of CETO, so they were going to go out there and hopefully get the boat in one piece. Do you have any update, Eric?
No, there was 3 kids and 2 adults.
It was 3 kids and 2 adults, thank you. Okay. So, and that happened last night. And as you know, the North Shoals, that's the constant thing. For some reason, and whatever, people will not go out to the sea buoy and get oriented to the inlet. They'll see a flashing beacon or whatever, and they'll head for it. And if they don't know the area and they're running around either on the North Shoals or sometimes the South Shoal, they're over there by Anastasia. And that's just a constant thing we have. The good news is nobody was injured, and we didn't lose anybody. Prior to that, last week, in the unofficial anchorage at Doug Crane down there, one of our regular tenants was being served a warrant on a sailboat. As a combination of Fish and Wildlife and Sheriff's Office taking the lead on that. And he was found to have passed and been on this boat for a few days. So, I suppose the medical examiner is conducting the autopsy to find out. It doesn't look like there's any foul play at this point in time, but the sailboat right now is abandoned for all intents and purposes, and I think the sheriff's office is, I don't know if it's Detective Garnes or not, I think they're looking into contacting relatives up in Canada to see if they'll come take possession of the boat. If not, then it'll be another one that will be marked and tagged as derelict vessel for removal down the line. So that is that's the most up-to-date derelict vessels that I have on that. The Palm Valley boat parade 2 weekends ago, and Regatta Lights this past weekend went smoothly, my understanding. In addition to having the local law enforcement public safety vessels out there, we had Coast Guard reservists and Coast Guard personnel from the station, Mayport, Sector Jacksonville, also on our boats participating. That's become an annual thing now. They're basically just there to help with if we had any security issues, which we usually don't. I was not able to get out there, so I don't know how it went, but I'm sure if it was out there, you probably saw what, how it went and how it transpired. So I was busy Saturday night. Fisheries wise, I think that's it for boating waterway stuff. I don't have a whole lot on that. Fisheries wise, I can tell you that Officer Miller, Investigator John Breckler, they got involved in a very substantial sea trout arrest a couple weekends ago down Rattlesnake Island by the Fort Matanzas Monument down there. A gentleman was 10 fish over the limit, so he had 15, another 15, I think 11 were outside of the size limit. So, that gentleman got a citation, and I think they donated the fish to Alligator Farm because they weren't fit for human consumption. So to feed the reptiles or the birds at the Alligator Farm, which is typically what we do. If we can donate it to St. Francis House to feed the homeless, we do that. But many times people don't bother to put fish on ice or preserve it properly, so we can't take a chance on that. And other than the still quasi-regular redfish violations up at Guana Dam, that was the most significant fisheries violation that we've had in the last month. So that's it, it's a short one today. I know Mr. Big will appreciate what he left on me. Guess he didn't like the way the Army Navy team turned out.
Who won?
It was a disappointing for him. So anyway, that's all I have. Are there any questions for me?
Exactly where is the North Shore?
The North Shoal, as you're going out the inlet, and once you get, you know where the little spur, that, now the little, what do you call it? The little jetty there on the north side. Yeah, right. Basically, you just go east of that, and you'll see all the breakers out there. And what happens is sometimes in the summer, when the weather's nice, the personal watercraft operators will like to go out there and try to jump those and ramp up and get some air. And we have to go out there because people end up on their handlebars because they bruise their chest or they fall off and they bang their knee. So what happens is, the best way to look at them is when you go over the Volano Bridge, which in the morning, it can be not perfectly flat or calm, but it'll still be anchored out there. And you can see them, but sometimes you can't see those bars, particularly if it's depending on wind conditions and the tide. And people, who don't know that St. Augustine Inlet is a tricky inlet. Technically, it's not navigable. I mean, I've seen people try to come in here on boats with road maps. That's the only navigation aid they have. They don't, not even a hard chart. Nowadays, it's hard to get a hard chart. Most stuff is electronics. But people, for some reason, will not go out to the sea buoy and get oriented. They try to beat it in here before dusk, and this is something that happens on a regular basis. It probably happens a handful of times a year. We get
There's a show on the south side as well.
There's one right off the station. Yes, that one's closer to the beach. And that one is not nearly as tricky, and that one doesn't it doesn't present itself visually as much to observe it, but it does also get a little bit angry out there, and that's where we get people trying to come up from the south end, and they'll run aground outside of Anastasia trying to cut it in. The next thing you know, the boat ends up on the state park.
Is there anything out there showing that the south shore should not be?
Is it marked in any way?
Not marked.
No,
Buoy there. They're trying to cut a corner.
Yeah,
Okay.
a prudent mariner, particularly with an inlet that they are totally unfamiliar with, or even slightly familiar with, or even at night, should go out to the sea buoy, get oriented to the inlet, but essentially get square instead of trying to round things, and then come in that way. And if you're not sure, we've had people radio the city marina, municipal marina, and ask for assistance, and even though we don't have pilots here. I think Sea Tow or Towboat in the past has volunteered to go out there or charge a minor fee, or if they're a member, they'll go out there and lead people in. But that is very much the exception and not the rule. And an unintentional grounding is a boating accident. It is, so we have to look into that. We know hard time people have it typically, but we do advise them about what needs to happen. So, but yes, when you hear a lot about the sailboats, or you've seen them, they wash up on Anastasia and have to get a flatbed or a crane out there to get them on. That's what happens on the south side. People will put, we've seen this with either solo operators or two people, will put the boat on autopilot and they'll go to sleep, which is a violation of nav rules itself, because you're supposed to have a lookout 24/7, 365. And next thing you know, the boat starts drifting with the wind and the current, and boom, hits that shoal, and then it ends up on the beach a lot. We've had that also. So it's that's job security for people and fish and wildlife and Coast Guard, I suppose. Anything else? All right, thanks so much.
Anybody else want to comment?
For the city police law enforcement overtime, of the 8,000 committed, 350 was spent to date. The St. Johns County Sheriff Department overtime, of the 20,000 committed, 2,500 was spent. On the derelict boats, I believe we committed 25,000 and we've spent 8,300 to date. In the Florida State Board of Administration Fund A, we have $22,935. In our operating account, we have $293,763. And in our money market account, we have $1,931,000. In the Summer Haven account balance, there's $712 in there. And the taxes budgeted, we budgeted for this fiscal year $570,634, and we have received to date $126,394.
Any questions for anyone before I go to the final? Approval of minutes for February 19th, 2019.
The only thing about the minutes was I thought that the part that I didn't bring my copy with me, I was talking about that Milano, boat grant that, Sandy has been talking about. May Street. Yeah, the way that it reads, that we all, we didn't have to copy the minutes, just read that paragraph about that. Did you read that?
Yeah, we found it. Main Street, Commissioner Flowers said the FDOT is willing to lease the district roadside area at the intersection of Main Street and Hospital Creek for $1 per year, and that the city of St. Augustine needs to review plans. Commissioner Flowers provided a photograph of the area taken at a very high tide, and it was largely inundated. She estimated the grading would cost in the area of $30,000 because FDOT wants a much wider driveway to the water. Also, some improvements may be needed for parking. She said she will keep working on it. Commissioners were very supportive.
Well, I thought that I brought up the fact that perhaps we better leave well enough alone. That people are still using that boat ramp.
Yeah.
So that is sort of an objection.
Okay.
So could you add that to the minutes?
Sure.
Thank you.
Do you like it the way it is? It's okay the way it is for you? The boat ramp?
The ramp, not the minutes, yeah.
The boat ramp?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
All right, I'll fix it.
Engineering report.
Last month,
I'm sure let's go with minutes.
but they're being modified, right?
Yeah, they're getting modified.
So we can refer to them next meeting.
We could, yeah, I can do it either way. I usually just fix them and post them.
Okay.
So you can, why don't you wait till next time?
Yeah.
Engineering report.
Okay, last month there was a report that channel marker number 5, Salt Run, was leaning. I asked Bacon Ray to take a look at it and send me a proposal for fixing it. They didn't see anything wrong with the channel markers. They noticed that channel marker number 5 in the St. Augustine Inlet had recently been replaced. And they noticed that channel marker number 1 in Salt Run was leaning, but was still firmly in place. So they didn't see anything that needed to be fixed or replaced.
That's good news. Okay. Anything else?
I did notify St. Johns County of the CAP program that you're working with County Corps on, so they're aware of it and aware that you want to closely coordinate and partner with them if it keeps progressing in a positive direction. Okay. That's it.
All right. Any questions for engineering? New business.
You want me to ask questions for engineering now or wait till public comment?
No, it's public comment.
Okay.
Which is real soon. New business. Discussion and vote on engineering contract. Do you have enough information at this point?
I gave it all to you, all three.
Look at
we got the letters of interest. Is there gonna be any opportunity to talk to?
Well,
residents from the other engineering firm? Should we try to set that up?
We could. When I get back, I could call them and tell them when the next meeting is, and if they care to send a proposal, if they care to make their case, then they can come to the next meeting.
I think that'd be good. I think that's kind of like, let's do that, and then we'll go with the meeting after that.
Okay.
Their proposals. Right. Yeah.
All right, before you go on, I got to get Max in here because he's going to give you some information on the videotaping. But I'll tell you what I got as of now as far as information regarding videotaping. His will be the cost basis. I talked to our web host and for the Port Waterway, and he said since we already have a Gmail account, I can go in there and set up through Gmail a YouTube and just make a YouTube and call it St. Augustine Port Meetings or whatever you want to title it, so that every meeting after it's completed, if you decide to go with the video, that I would get a CD from Max. I have to know what the format is, and then download it on my computer, and then put it to the YouTube account, and then the web host will put a link on the web page on the port's website, and then so there's a link. So if you press on that link, it'll take you right to the YouTube where all the meetings will be stationed. And you're up, Max.
And Anthony.
They're going to give you the financial end of it.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize where we're at.
Oh, no, I was just giving them what I got so far, but you're going to do state your name.
Anthony Jones, do my address?
Yes.
3 Arthur Court, St. Augustine, Florida. I sent you guys a memo, so you should all receive that. It does have a brief overview of your pricing. I can give you more detail on what it is.
They all have it. They should all have it in front of them.
Yeah, I try to keep that brief, and I apologize. I'm not good with brief. I'm used to explaining things in great detail for people that really hear for us. That's not work. But what we looked at is for us to actually film these meetings, we need somebody to actually work about 2 hours a meeting. One with scheduling and setting up the meeting, and the other one being back end that's actually doing something with that meeting when we take it, either give it to Elise and UD, post it to a YouTube site for you, wherever you actually want to do with the video at that point. The cost there was an approximate. The only employee that I direct is paid approximately $25 an hour, so that's going to be right around that cost. The cost would vary, so work with finance our side to get a better number with that, but it would vary on who we actually have to work in these meetings, which IT is not always available, and that's one of the issues. You look further down that memo, I do tell you that just for information purposes that I do plan on giving our commission a recommendation that we deny your request. And for one reason, IT is under a management control agreement with PD. I've signed a management control agreement. The chief has signed a management control agreement. He actually has the ability to direct what I do if it conflicts with law enforcement priorities. We're required to have that by CGIS, which is the governing policy that controls us under the FTLA, which kind of keeps us having access rights for NCIC and FCIC, which we want. But because of that, the one employee that I direct may not always be available, because if we get pulled from that management control agreement, you now have a different employee actually filming the meeting, and the cost would change, but like I said, that's an approximate. The equipment cost, we took the value of the equipment that we have upstairs. We have approximately $120,000 worth of equipment that's actually directly related to filming commission meetings. We kind of rounded that down to $100,000 to about 100 hours a year is what we actually run that equipment for, and it has a 10-year replacement schedule. Even if we were to be very conservative and count all our board meetings that do not film, we have a couple that we don't actually film, we don't video, we do audio record, but that's it. We're looking at about 200 hours a year. That's the $50 an hour you see is the 200 hours a year with $100,000 in equipment, and it gives you our hourly cost for that equipment to actually run. We spoke with our finance office, they absolutely were, I don't want to say adamant, they were behind us on passing that cost along if we were to progress down this route. Other than that, I don't know if you guys have any questions.
So, in your opinion, what do you think it's going to cost per meeting? Roughly, is it $75, $100, $50 with your man, with the equipment and everything?
I would tell you it's probably going to cost about $100 a meeting.
Okay. And then, but you're not really for it, right?
I'm against it because we have issues with personnel. It's a conflict, in my opinion, for the city because we're using city personnel during scheduled hours to actually provide a service to another entity, which really does conflict with our purpose of having our employees here.
Okay. Any questions, anyone? No? Discussion or anything?
Well, the single camera, I mean, somebody that can just take a single camera and just go back and forth, and is that what will happen from where you're standing and where we're sitting?
From our perspective, what we were looking at was setting up one single camera with live view. If you've ever seen like
It's everybody, okay.
yeah, like so the personnel time is really with scheduling meetings, setting up ahead of time, and then really probably the majority of it's actually getting back into this exporting the video and getting out to release however we need to deal with that.
One of those cameras back there,
It would be one of the ones directly behind me because they have the better view for the broad board, yes.
Okay, so at this point, I think that we would, any discussion?
Apparently we need to wait until you have the opportunity to present to the city commission anyway, right? I mean, we can't move forward with anything until they approve.
I apologize, I didn't know if I was going to you guys bring that forward.
Did they stream the city commission meetings to YouTube?
We do.
And then how many hits do they get?
It really varies wildly depending on the topic of the meeting. We have some meetings that
go viral.
No, we've never had any that were thousands of views. We've had a meeting where there were 7 views, and we've had a meeting where there were 200 views, but not. It really heavily depends on the agenda, yes.
Okay. So at this point, I guess we just need to wait until see what happens with the city.
Yeah, I would say personally that at $120 a meeting or so, which is what it sounds like. It's going to be $21.48 for wide shot plus $50 in time, employee time plus $50 in equipment costs, right?
No, I apologize. That $50 in employee time, I was counting 2 hours, approximately 2 hours at the $21.48.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, it was just an
So
hour,
about,
roughly 50, and then the additional 50 an hour for the equipment, which I think your meetings usually, if I'm not mistaken, you figures will last about an hour, maybe 2 tops.
They have been listed.
Yeah, they haven't gone.
The commission, he said one of the reasons why they were hesitant to want to do this is because of the scheduling. And how does the commission feel about when they don't have somebody available and we don't record it? I mean, if that's going to alleviate any headaches for the city, just look, no one's available, let's rely on the
Audio.
audio.
We can do that.
That's a thought.
Tom Reynolds, 50 Brigantine Court. I think that the meetings are incredibly important to televise or streamline or what have you, keep a record. I want to give you an example. When I heard this gentleman right back here from the state talking about, and I'm not a voter, but talking about those bars and people not seeing it, well, that's super important stuff. And, you know, if it sounds like the city is not willing, well, the lady did have a good point about YouTube, and it is kind of easy to set up a YouTube channel. But you also have at your disposal to put out an RFP. Maybe Flagler College students could do this. Come in, get some nice credit, it's a once a month thing. But the work that, you know, when I was thinking, sitting here listening, I glanced down. And I think of the city of St. Augustine Beach, beautiful beach, thanks to Mr. Royal and staff and all the great years he's worked here. Made this place so beautiful. But when I look at your title, St. Augustine Port Waterway and Beach District. That is huge. Because really, you're responsible for so much. Because if something fails, it has to do with this water, it stops the whole machine of tourism. And that's what this county relies on. But the information, the few times I've been here, what I've come to know, it's really important. So I hope no matter how you do it, you just do it. Thank you.
I agree.
I'm not putting the time.
Okay, I don't need to find it. Ed Slade with Oxford, I agree with Mr. Reynolds, and in the spirit of compromise, let me suggest that in light of what Mr. John said about the conflicting employee responsibilities, what if your meetings were starting at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, like the city of San Augustine Beach? That way there would be no conflict with that full-time employee of the city of San Augustine Beach. Working people in the industry could attend a lot easier, and you wouldn't have any schedule conflict as far as having video coverage, and more people could attend the meetings and more people could see them. And I think it's important for people to see democracy in action, to see what y'all do, and it's in the interest of transparency. And also, given the declining local newspaper here, a lot of times the St. Augustine Record, the kids, I'll call them kids because they're younger than me, the people, the young people with the St. Augustine Record, the reporters, they'll watch meetings on TV. They won't even be there anymore. So you get better coverage if you have, I think, meetings televised, and if you do them at night. Like the city of San Augustine does, and the city of San Augustine Beach. And I'm hoping in the spirit of compromise, maybe y'all could schedule your meetings at a time when there wouldn't be any conflict for Mr. Johns or Mr. Roy. And I'd like to thank Mr. Johns and Mr. Roy for putting the proposal together, and I hope that they can be worked out. And I thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anything else? We'll public comment. Linda?
Linda again, Friends of the Summerhaven River. I just had a couple of questions, basically for Mike, just some end of the year. Some people had asked some questions from our advisory board. The permits that the port has for the restoration, have they been extended to the utmost limit that they can be extended?
DEP permit is extended to 2026, I believe. So yes, that was extended as far as we could.
Okay.
The Army Corps permit extension is still in process. I provided, they gave us a temporary extension to January 19th, I believe it was, just to allow them time to review some additional information that they requested from us. It's pretty basic information where we dredge, what's left, and where we plan on still dredging in the future. So I sent that to them last week, so that's in their hands now to take a look at it.
Okay.
And then give us the full extension that they can.
Okay.
So they said easily 1 to 2 years, sometimes 3 to 4 years, but it all depends on how much opposition there was to the project during the permitting phase. So
Okay.
it's up to them to figure out how long they can extend it for.
Okay. And then that leads me to the next question. In the North River, as far as the sand goes, you were working on some numbers on that, and it was the as-built survey that Turnbull did. Did that include all the way from Matanzas Inlet to the southern portion of the port's template, permitted template? Or was that only a portion of the river?
It did not go all the way up to Matanzas.
Okay, so where did it stop?
I think it's station 56+00, so a little bit west of the bridge, a few hundred feet west of where they had stopped dredging. So.
Okay, so, yeah, well, we always identify the people that live there, but it's probably Roy Campbell's house then.
Right, so I think your question is there more sand potentially between there and Matanzas Inlet?
I can guarantee you there is.
So, right.
Okay.
There definitely could be.
Okay, and so if you consider, taking that sand out, then it would be from Matanzas Inlet all the way south to the end of the template. Is that correct? And then the reason that I'm asking is people are looking at Matanzas Inlet again going, you know, it's not looking real good out there. We're like, well, the river's not flowing because the south end is plugged, so.
We can dredge within the authorized template, which
Right.
did not extend all the way to the inlet. There was a.
Right, but it went pretty close.
Right.
Yeah, okay. And then can you just give us an update on the southern end and what's going on down there?
So the southern end is more of a long-term project because that's going to require a modification to the Army Corps permit, and that doesn't get done quickly. So I am working with the county and the county's other consultant to submit permit drawings for that section of the river, so that's still in progress.
Okay. The other permits, though, they would still have a DEP permit, just like, or are they working, so are you working on the ports permit that you're modifying to do that? To do this southern end? I mean, they came and requested a permit mod. Is that what you're asking for the Army Corps of Engineers?
Right, at this time, so the only core permit there is for dredging the river is the one that the Port District has.
Okay, for the north end. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So depending on how long they extend that for, if they only give us a 1-year extension, that's not going to give anyone much time to get into the south end of the river.
Okay, and then just to follow, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I was going to say, up to now, we've only been talking about modifying the Port District's Department of the Army permit.
Okay. And then does it help if you have citizens that say to the Army Corps, look, it's critical down here at the south end to get the sand out, and it's vulnerable down here, and we would like you to expedite this. Can you write to someone? Can you rally folks to write and say, look, we don't need a year on this, we need it done now? Is there a way to do that?
There is. Typically, there's a public notice that the Army Corps will issue.
Right.
And once that comes out, you're free to submit all of your comments. And if you have positive comments, I definitely encourage that because typically they only receive negative comments.
Right, okay. How long does it, I mean, has that been submitted to the Army Corps or not?
For the south end?
Yes.
That has not.
So they won't be coming out with a notice until that's done, is that right?
I plan on submitting that shortly. The county had to collect some geotechnical data in the south end.
Uh-huh.
They provided that to me a couple weeks ago, I think it was. And so I've been working with their consultant to come up with a dredging template for the south end. And so Taylor Engineering is going to prepare permit drawings along with that geotechnical data that they provided us and submit that to FDP and the Army Corps.
Okay.
So that will happen probably in January since we're coming up on the holidays here.
Right, okay. Right, thanks, I appreciate that.
And they also conducted a September 2019 bathymetry survey down at that south end too, so we have up-to-date bathymetry data.
Okay, and who did that?
Morgan and Eklund, I believe, was the surveyor. The county's other consultant hired them to do it.
That was Tim Mason?
Tim Mason with ATM.
Right. Thank you very much. All right, I appreciate it. I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas and a happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Any more public comment? Okay. Comments by commissioners? Mr. White? No, nothing. Mr. Rivers? Same thing. Commissioner Brown?
I just want to say that as per our last meeting, I have been researching locks for marine sanitation devices that we've been talking about with law enforcement, but I'm going to wait until we have more law enforcement here because I want to kind of pick their brains specifically, but it's going to be extraordinarily cheap for us to do that, something like $150 to provide 1,000 units, so it should be pretty inconsequential for us to do that.
It's just going to be the enforcement.
Exactly, but that's their problem, that's not ours.
All right. Next meeting date?
21st.
January 21st. Everybody have a happy happy holiday, we're adjourned.
Public comment? Public comment?
I thought we just said.
We're adjourned, but, going up. We'll read over there.
I thought he just said public.
Just have public comment, buddy.
Yeah.
Just wanted to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy New Year, and please not skip the meetings with the county commission in the future. If you address that in your future. I think working with Mr. Royal, you'd be more likely to be able to get video coverage if you have meetings in the evening, and not have a staff conflict. And by the way, Mr. Chairman, on the letter that I sent to Vicki Oakes about your residency issue, if you have any response, please let me hear from you this week. Under 20 paragraphs, otherwise we'll be being committed.
Thank you. Okay, so we are adjourned, the next meeting is 21st.
Barry, I need you to sign.
Happy New Year, Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas.
Happy Hanukkah, at least.
Thank you. Barry, I need you to sign some things. There's 4.
Okay.
So,
I'm not saying that. I'm
well,
saying 19.
just go sit over there and sign them. They're doing a night meeting.
I'm not being a jerk.
Show up for the night meeting. Yeah. All right. Oh, good. I guess we gotta go pick up a